Park and Recreation Advisory Board to order. I would ask Emily to give us the invocation, please.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today safely so that we might glorify you by serving our community on this board. Please give us the guidance and the wisdom to make good decisions for our city and let our actions and attitude be pleasing to you. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, I guess we're going to, the next item on the agenda is citizen comments. Do we have any citizens with comments? Not today. We're going to go to a city council meeting for that, I think, from what I hear.
They've been pretty tame lately, so.
All right. So I guess now we're to approval of minutes. Has anybody had a chance to look at the minutes from last month?
No.
You haven't?
I'll make a motion.
I
Make a motion.
second.
Got a second, and you haven't read them minutes? Oh, you got it, all right. So I guess we've had a second, so the minutes are approved.
Need actual vote, so if
I think
everybody
we had a
agrees.
vote. Oh, yeah, we need to have a vote. Sorry. We had does anybody want to approve the minutes? Sorry, I'm like, not all here today.
No, it's all right.
So we've had a motion and a second, and we'd like to approve the minutes. All those for approving, aye? Aye. All right, so we all approve the minutes. Bam. On to the next consent agenda, and I'll turn it over to Scott.
So on February 8th, we had our third annual daddy-daughter dance. Yeah, get caught up which one we had. So it's a little hard to see the pictures, but again, sold out the event.
It was great
I know
success.
everybody is, looks forward to that every year. There's schools, some of the schools do them and those kind of things, but depending on the date, it works for a number of people in our community, so we're proud to be able to offer that. And it's a great time for a great number of people, so. Then the next weekend, we had our Kid Fish Derby, and this is the third time that we've done this event as well. We did it long ago, and then Partners in Prevention did it, and then we've taken it over the past couple of years. And we were very fortunate this year. The weather cooperated more than it did the previous year, although it was a little cool the morning of. But we had a great turnout, probably the highest we've had in the 3 years that we've taken it back over. Again, you can see by the smiling faces and everybody there that it was a tremendous success as well.
And, he's got a fish. Do you guys stock it right before, or is it just fish that's been living there?
Yeah, so Texas Parks and Wildlife stocks it, and so we work with them to get all that done and coordinate dates and all that. So
The kids look forward to that, because
They do.
they come up to me and ask when,
Yep,
So it's
Yeah.
something Longview looks forward to.
absolutely. It's a great event. So we've had our programming side hasn't been quite as busy, although February picked up considerably, and as we move into March, we're going to have a lot going on. Our second Rec and Roll will be out at Hensley here this upcoming weekend. Again, that's a new event that we're producing this year, where we load up one of our vans with a bunch of outdoor games, activities, and those kind of things, crafts, and just kind of have a day at the park. It's a way for us to promote all the other programs that we offer and we do, but then also hopefully entice people to get out to parks that they may not otherwise visit. And so that's the event has two purposes. So this month we'll be at Hensley. Our registration for both softball and kickball is currently ongoing, and we're trying to make a concerted effort to increase the participation in particularly softball, just because last year we had a little bit of a decline in the number of teams participating in softball. So, two other events going on in March: a movie in the park. Again, we did our first one last fall, very successful. So this year it's going to be Ralph Wrecks the Internet. I think that's what it is, right? That's the name of it. So that'll be March 23rd at the Miracle Field. And then that next week, we'll have our pitch, hit, and run. And then that's a local qualifier, and they can participate in the regional and move on from there. On the maintenance side of things, as you know, we're slowly getting out of the winter months. We do have a couple of people that have asked a question when we're turning back on the water fountains, because we turned them off around November, in the middle of November. And our goal is to get them on that first week of March. So they have been off. We typically get that like 2 weeks, or that last Friday where it's 70 degrees and everybody is then on the trail and they want to get water. But then, of course, the next 2 days it was, 28 degrees, 29 degrees. And then this morning it was 32 degrees in my house. So again, we try to get out of that frost period so we don't have a tremendous number of repairs to those, because they're all elevated and exposed, and we can get some serious damage on those. So we try to prevent that and save some money there. So a lot of stuff going on to get us ready for the spring months. A couple other things that we'll show you here out at Teague Park. I think I'd sent these pictures, but we had some damage on the benches, maybe for mowers, maybe vandalism, not quite sure exactly what it is, but one way to be able to mitigate certainly the damage from mowers is putting a concrete pad underneath, and so that's what we've done to a number of those type of structures. That way we know for sure it's not mower, damage from contractors or employees doing stuff. If anything, it'd have to be vandalism. So again, I think to me, putting a concrete pad just cleans everything up as well. So we'll get some grass seeding out there as we move forward. It's hard to see in the picture there on the right, but that's standing water on our baseball field last Wednesday. So last Wednesday was a nice day. It was 55 degrees, and people are calling, wanting to play this past weekend. We had a softball tournament that was scheduled for Thursday through Saturday, and then a baseball tournament on Saturday and Sunday. And so they're calling on Wednesday and then, of course, Thursday, wanting to know if they're going to be able to play. And I told them on Wednesday, we still have standing water in our outfields. And so that is not a safe condition. It's not safe condition for kids that are trying to run and cut and do things in the outfield. It'll tear up our fields, but that's, and that is a concern, but the safety is the priority for us. And so I just show you that because, and I sent this to a couple of the guys that questioned, well, if it doesn't rain, tomorrow we'd be able to get them ready. Well, it did rain Thursday all day, rained Friday, it rained Saturday morning hard, and then Saturday afternoon, of course, it's 65 degrees, sunny, and looks beautiful out. But if you go out and look at our fields today, they're the same as they were on Wednesday. They have standing water in the outfields. So if this was July, we'd be able to play. But this time of year, the ground is completely saturated, and there's just not really much drying going on. Even as windy as it was yesterday. Yesterday was a great day to be able to dry, but when the groundwater is so hot, elevated right now, there's just no place for the water to run off to.
Probably a lot of clay in there too.
There is. And so the drainage system that's in place on most of our fields is adequate. I mean, people are like, well, you need to improve the drainage. Well, there's really not a whole lot we can do on this. We're not professional. These are not professional level fields where if you miss a game day, that's huge. They put millions and millions of dollars into their underground drainage system to be able to pull water off those fields, and they can take them out. We're just not designed for that type of thing. So it will probably take, I would imagine it will take until Wednesday until we'd be able to play, but unfortunately tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, it's supposed to rain again. So
That's East Texas.
that's East Texas in spring. So again, I just say that so if anybody ever questions you as to why we're not playing, or because again, Saturday and Sunday, beautiful days, but what happened the 3 previous days and even the weeks prior to that didn't allow for us to be able to play this past weekend.
And we're looking at a 28-degree day Tuesday morning, I think.
Right.
Come next Tuesday,
Right.
We have a freezing weather
coming up next week.
Yeah. We want to play, believe me. I mean, our guys, I mean, they're begging for to work a little overtime on the weekends and to get out there and play. And we do everything we can. We tarped all of our infields on the softball fields. And again, people question, they're like, well, why don't you just tarp the infields? Then that'll make them playable. Well, infields are probably okay. I haven't checked this morning, but the infields are, after we pulled the tarps off today, we could probably play this afternoon, but it's the outfields that are the issue. The other item with the tarps is, you know, you have to remember that tarps cover a 200 by 200 area. So when you put a bunch of rain on it, they're not exactly the easiest things in the world to move and remove from a field. In addition, there's water sitting on it. Guess where that water goes?
Right back on the field.
Right back on the field. So it's not as simple as just tarp the infields and you'll be fine. So it does help. It mitigates some of the issues. And if it was just going to be the best thing for them is if the fields are in good condition, there's not standing water in the outfields, and we know it's going to rain overnight, put the tarps on, we can get those fields going pretty quick that next morning. So anyway, just giving you guys a little bit of background information, so if anybody does question or ask you about what or why, you have a little bit of knowledge and understanding. Not trying to make any excuses, just trying to fill you in with the reality.
I think that's a good excuse.
Yeah.
Well,
It's just the reality of the
Yeah,
situation.
that's East
so.
Texas.
I suspect people would be a lot more unhappy if they started tramping around out there and it was cold and wet, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. In particular, you know, we're coming up on soccer. Soccer seasons have been pretty shortened the past couple of years just because of rain, and they're like, and the criticism we receive is that, you know, it's not manicured lawns and we don't need to worry about those kind of things, but I would just, they look good. I mean, if you were to just standing outside the fence on baseball, you're like, oh, it looks fine. If you're standing outside the fence on soccer, looks fine, but you start walking on it and you sink about an inch or two every step you take, and that's just walking across the field. That's not a good situation for anybody. Anyway, with construction projects, Guthrie Trail phases 2 and 3 in design. So we're bidding the utility portion, and again, as I explained last month, is we get the utilities out of the way. That way, when the trail comes in, it's just doing trail construction, and so we will open bids in the next 2 weeks, award that contract in April, and that's about a 4-month contract. So they should be done and out of the way prior to us bidding the actual construction of the trail, which is anticipated for this fall, and award a contract later this fall, early winter. Out at the dog park, we have the shade structure that has been installed and put up. It looks great. The Dog Park Association is very pleased with that. Again, they underwrote the majority of the cost of the installation of that. And one of the things I think that we're going to look at doing this spring is putting a concrete walk from the entry out to that shade structure. So that way, again, utilization is a little bit higher when we do those types of things. So for phase 1 on the Guthrie Trail, and again, it may be a little bit hard to see, but they are making a little bit of progress. The picture on the left is north of Hollybrook. So this is this is behind the hospital, if you will. They poured 2 sections of trail just north of Hollybrook. The signals have gone up at Hollybrook and 4th, and then the flashing beacon that is on Delwood has been installed as well. They're not operational. They won't do that until later on, but they have been installed.
Is that going to be an orange beacon or a red beacon?
So the one on Delwood is an orange beacon. So it's just a warning.
4th Street's going to be orange?
So on 4th Street and on Hollybrook, they are pedestrian activated signals. So when you press the button as a pedestrian, it'll flash to yellow, and then it'll turn red to stop traffic in both directions, both on 4th Street and on Hollybrook.
And then it goes back flashing yellow?
And then it'll go, I think it'll just, yeah. I don't know if it's off and then goes to flashing. I don't know the sequence exactly, but I know if you press the button at some point, it's going to go yellow, then it's going to stop traffic with a red, so.
Because I drove by, they were putting the ones on 4th. I was
Right.
going to lunch out that way, but I noticed only 2 lights. I thought, well, one's probably red and the other's probably.
Yeah, I think it's a yellow and then to red, so. And then the picture on the right is just south of Hollybrook. That's our retaining wall. And again, it's a pretty impressive structure that they're putting in place. And so there's a French drain that drains back to the top of the picture, and there's a culvert right there, and then drainage to the creek along that side there. So that's just about done, so we'll have to get the concrete poured on top and then a railing, of course, and everything. But again,
How are those two sections of trail between Fourth and Hollybrook and Hollybrook down to Delwood? Do they flood or no? I mean, they seem kind of high.
there will be some sections that'll be underwater.
Yeah, wherever that
it-
might be a little,
But it won't flood like
like Borum.
Borman. It'll be more like like the northern sections of, well, actually not even Borman, because Borman, pretty much the whole thing can get underwater. I wouldn't anticipate any of this being underwater consistently, but there will be some areas where water will what they call sheet flow,
Yeah.
because of drainage and those kind of things, and it may take a little bit to dry out. But the creek there doesn't really get up and out of its banks significantly enough to back up. There may be one section at the bend in the middle of behind Miles Drive between Delwood and Hollybrook. There's one section where the creek does come pretty close there, and if it does get up, it may back up onto the trail. But I wouldn't anticipate any other sections. And I don't have any pictures of the Arboretum construction to date, but I did update the drawing as to what trails have been completed. So all the sections in blue are done, and the one over there in orange will be the one that's next, as they'll work their way around to the top of that picture. You'll notice where the where the line stops there, a couple of different places there are bridges, and they have put in the bridge abutments on those, so that's out of the water for the most part now. Once they get past, there is a section that on the top right portion where there's the Y up there, not the one that's in orange, but that next one. That section stays a little wet right through there, but all the other sections dry out pretty quick. So once they get out of those areas, they'll be able to move pretty quickly. So.
What is that area within it's almost a circle. Is that just kind of a little open meadow with a few trees, or?
Yeah, so I'll walk over here, it's a little easier since they don't like me to use the pointer, but. So this is what's considered the Great Lawn.
Ah, okay.
So it'll just be a nice, large, green, grassed area. The amphitheater is right here.
Right.
It overlooks the lake. And so that way, this whole area will have a nice, it slopes down to the amphitheater, so it'd be great for seating for events and things that take place.
Jared Curtis.
It's gonna be great.
There you go. So that's all I have, unless you have any questions on any of the other items that are in the reports.
Well, I think we can just move on to the bond election projects. I mean, that's,
So I'm just going to keep this item as a standard agenda item
yeah.
as we move forward, because I think it's great to be able to fill you guys in, not that I don't every week on what's going on, but just at our monthly meetings is, the progress on our bond projects. They're, again, one of our goals is to be as transparent as possible, as well as be accountable to our community. And so here's the tentative schedule of everything, and I know there's a lot of blocks and numbers, and everything gets a little jumbled as to where things are. But in general, what you see in green is the design, and then the red is the actual construction. And so other than on the park side of things, the Arboretum has the construction phase, if you will, because it's currently under construction. That's the earliest one, so April to June, so those funds will be expended during that time. In general, and through next March, we would anticipate pretty much to be under design for everything else, and then we'll begin construction. But of course, we are using bond funds out at Lear Park for the Jack Man, the splash pad, and we just heard this morning that it looks like the tentative date for installation is April 15th. So a little bit later than what we had hoped, but still should allow plenty of time prior to school getting out for us to be able to have that facility open. It's much better to have the installation, have that facility down during the week, during April or May, rather than June or July when people are out there and it's a little bit hectic. So we did have a couple of questions over the past month regarding Jack Man, and because it does get quite busy during the summer months, and the only staff that we have out there is in the concession stand. But due to the increased play features that we're putting out there and the pavilions, we are going to put a couple of attendants that'll be there. That way they'll monitor the use of the pavilions, make sure the schedules are there, but then also check on the bathrooms and then correct a little bit of behavior if by chance there may be a rule that's broken, like a kid sprinting across the concrete deck. But doubt that'll happen, but just in case it does. So we will have somebody out there during the busier parts of the time. So we hope that'll help everything else. So I provided if you look at this, it doesn't fund everything with the first set of bond funds that were sold. It's about $17 million worth of park projects that are anticipated over the next 2 years, if you will. And so over the next 2 years, here's what we have scheduled to get done. And this is a lot of work. So Lear Park, baseball and softball fields, artificial turf out at soccer. The only project from Lear Park that will be delayed and possibly pushed back is there's a trail that goes on out there. We didn't feel that was as imminent of a need right now, and so with all the other trail stuff that we have going on, so that's probably going to be on a later. That's going to be pushed down the line as far as trying to balance the funding available. So that will be pushed down to a later phase. Broughton Recreation Center and Park. That RFP has been distributed to architects, design firms, anybody that would like to put in a proposal. We open that up March 8th. Is that what I said? I can't remember. I think it's early March on that. We'll do interviews and have somebody have a contract in place probably in April, maybe early May. Just kind of depends on what the negotiations are like on the design of that park and the improvements to that facility. And so then McWhorter, Stamper, Lois Jackson, Spring Creek, and Patterson are all with one design firm. And so we are getting ready to sign the contract on that one. Once we do, then we will work on public meetings for each of the public input on all those kind of things. So again, once I have tentative dates or schedules on all that, I'll make sure that we share, and we'll promote and publicize all of those types of things. But those are with one contractor. So we want to make sure we get as much public input on those as possible. And I'm looking at some other ways for us to be able to put some of the initial thoughts, plans, ideas, and those kind of things on our website so that we can get some feedback that way as well. I mean, social media is great, but the website feedback or specifically something for that is a much better venue for that. So it may possibly get some online discussion going on that. So again, trying to reach out to groups that utilize it as well. So
Can you remind me roughly what kinds of things are we thinking about doing to those places?
Sure. So at McWhorter, we had, a lot of the ball field fencing is quite old and needs to be replaced. The trail needs some work as well. New playground. We're also putting in a new basketball court in addition to the one that's there and overlaying it, and then a sand volleyball. Those are the major items at McWhorter. Stamper Park, putting in a trail around Stamper Park, new playground, new pavilion, I think new water play features possibly too.
In Stamper, is the new pavilion, is it gonna replace the old one, or is it gonna be located somewhere else in Stamper?
That's one of those things that we want to talk about. In our opinion, it would be better to be relocated to a different location.
Okay, and not use the one up at the, okay,
Right, the one that's right there along,
whatever that street is.
yeah, I can't remember, it's kind of right at the corner.
Pecan or something.
Yeah,
like that.
and it's just, it's not accessible, not very accessible right there. And so I think if we moved it, so, anyway, again, those are some of the things that we're gonna talk about. Then on the Womack side is making sure we improve the grading on the existing football fields, but then also making what is currently used for the flag football fields, making them into true flag football fields. And again, we're going to work with the Little League football group on some of that kind of things. I have some real, aha moments that I've had in looking at that playing plan that I think can really make that facility pop. And so anyway,
Is that street gonna be closed off in the first phase?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, this will all be in the first phase. So we'll design the whole thing. But to me, we just want to increase the usability of that space. And right now it's just chopped up. And so we want to make it so that it's one venue with one central location of entry that makes it easier to control, one central concession stand and restrooms and all those kind of things, but then also allow for good flow of traffic, foot traffic, not vehicular. But then also, and speaking of vehicular traffic, is changing some of the parking. One of the issues right now is the way that the entry is configured, and there's a lack of parking close to the entry, and then it's not ADA accessible. Anyway, there's a lot of issues and a lot of moving parts that I think we can. We're really excited to make the improvements so that facility is it's already currently used quite a bit, but we want to make the use that much better and the experience much more enjoyable for not only the participants and the users, but parents and spectators and grandparents. So,
Scott, let me back up just a minute.
Yes, sir.
To the other park that's got all the old rail cars and stuff.
yes.
Are y'all gonna wait until the action's taken on the new fire and police training facility before you move all that stuff?
I don't know. We haven't taught again because we haven't.
Well, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, and there's a lot of moving parts, and that's not in the park side of it. That's another side, but we're all working together to try to schedule all those kind of things. And so, again, some of that's why some of this design takes a little bit longer. People are like, well, you know what you want to do, just get out there and do it. Well, there's a little coordination in that as well. And so, no, that's a good question as to how we're going to be able to schedule that. But I know they're anxious to get something going, and the neighborhood's anxious to get those things out of there, and we are too. So, yeah.
And then the one firm that's working on these, are they waiting for input from the public, or are they giving some ideas that can be adjusted?
It'll be all that. So what we will do is, and again, I'm happy to share any of the schedule once we produce one, but we'll do just meet with them staff-wise to kind of get some ideas and those kind of things. We'll probably come up with a draft design, then we'll get public comment, and then go back to another design and probably design 3, 4, 5, 6
Yeah,
until
that
it's
makes sense.
finalized. So we want to make sure that we get some of the input from specifically like at Womack before we even get into initial design that, initial draft that doesn't make sense for us to just.
I believe that people generally need to see something to get their creative
Yeah.
going, so.
Yeah, I agree. So Cargill Long Trail is going to be overlaid and made some improvements to some of the roadways or the structures into them to make it more accessible. Lois Jackson Park. Lois Jackson is going to get an additional pavilion, another playground. And I think that's it. Those are the two main ones out there. Restroom. Oh, yeah, restroom. Sorry. Restroom's a big one for Lois Jackson Park. Spring Creek Park. Restroom out there, pavilion, and improvements to the trail that's the existing trail that's out there, playground. Patterson Park, a new playground, as well as improvements, just site improvements, the parking lot and the retaining wall, and so just some drainage issues that need to be addressed there. So
Right.
those are kind of the bulk. Those are the primary issues that we've identified at this point, anyway. again, as we move along, we may discover that people have some great ideas and thoughts that need to be incorporated.
Yeah, we were in many of the subcommittee meetings and looked at these for a long time, so looks like exactly what we were talking about a year ago.
Right. So each of those has a budget that we'll work from, so.
All right, let's talk about this wonderful shade canopy donation at Spring Hill Park.
So Ambucks 2 they're the ones that, on the picture on the left, you can see that's the big green area. That is Neil McCoy Playground, Longview Ambucks 2, universally accessible Neil McCoy Playground. So it's a jumble and a long way to say it's a playground that wheelchairs have access to. So it's it's the only one that we have that's poured in place surface, and poured in place is crumbled rubber that is epoxied together. So again, a wheelchair can easily roll across it, or those with mobility issues. It doesn't have to be just wheelchairs. But anyway, so they raised the funds to be able to put the port in place and make the improvements to the playground itself. And so since that point, which I think that playground went in 2014, I think is when that was in. And so then they've been raising funds ever since then, because what they found out was that, people don't like to be out there when it's hot. And it tends to do that in Texas in the summer. It's hard to believe right now, but so they've been raising some money, wanting to put a shade structure over. Their hope was to do the whole thing, but then when they started realizing what the cost of some of these shade canopies were, then we're going to do at least at phase 1, which will cover about not quite half of the structure, but they have $60,000. The remaining $30,000 will be from our annual budget that we had budgeted, some playground improvements, and so we're going to be able to fund the remaining portion to be able to just get it done. We just felt strongly if somebody's going to be able to come forward with some funding and a great initiative that we can get it done. So this will be on City Council's agenda on Thursday, and so we would prefer to have a motion to approve this donation and installation, and that way we can forward that to City Council and get this project underway before summer.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that motion that the board approves staff's recommendations on the donation, purchase, and installation of the shade canopy at Spring Hill Park.
All right, and I will second that. Can we have a vote on that, please? Everybody, it's unanimous.
Great.
It's a nice
It's a good deal.
It's a nice
Yeah.
place. It's a beautiful facility. I've
It is.
been out there a couple times and seen all sorts of kids and moms out there and having a great time, so it's really nice.
So if you want to have,
From this
if you want to have an idea of what the shade structure will look like, it's similar to a lot of our other canopies, but the one at the Boys and Girls Club on, over their
Garfield.
playground on Garfield, it'll be very similar to that one. So I'm sure Miss Williams can tell you those are not cheap, so.
Nope.
The handicap really get hot easy, so
Yeah.
the shade will help a whole lot, and they'll come out more.
Yeah.
Because I've seen them, they get hot real easy, because they're in the house all the time.
Well, the one that's at the Boys and Girls Club will reduce the temperature 40 degrees.
Mm.
It makes a difference.
40 degrees, which is shocking, but it does.
Uh-huh, it does.
Okay.
I'm glad they're doing this.
Yeah, these partnerships have been a real benefit for all the different park projects.
Absolutely,
It's been
absolutely.
wonderful.
We're very thankful for a lot of the partners. I mean, we talked about the dog park earlier. The Arboretum obviously has raised a considerable amount of funds, and now Longview and Bucks too. So,
Yeah, I mean, Longview, keep Longview beautiful
Keep Longview
and out there,
beautiful, yeah.
there's so much. It's great for our community. And, all right, so now we're gonna go to this wonderful Paula Martin Jones hour of operation change.
So currently, we operate 68 and a half hours a week. I was wrong in my memo. I said the change would be 2 hours. It's 3 hours. But
Oh, you can do it on Saturday.
it's a rounding error, maybe. I don't know. We're currently not open on Saturdays. And, that's one of the things that people have questioned since I've been here. And as we've had discussion about Green Street and senior center offerings and what we have available within our community and recreational opportunities. We felt that, you know what, we need to take a look at our hours to see that we're doing the most good. You know, we've heard those types of things in the past. And so Seth had come to me and said, hey, what do you think about us rolling back our hours during the week and being able to do that? And he went about it, which is kind of my thing is we try to have zero net effect on the budget, but I know this would have a little bit of an impact adding 3 hours to the schedule because it's 4 part-time staff people, but I felt that. So again, I applaud him for trying to get it done without an impact on the budget, but I think it's important for us to be able to remain during the evenings to be able that extra 30 minutes may not seem like a whole lot, but I think anybody that comes there at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, it would be pushing it to get done by 7. And so just that little bit of extra time I think goes a long way to be able to complete workouts. And then if we just push it Monday through Friday, it's just consistent. It's easy to know and understand what our hours are. It's like, all right, is this Friday? Is that change? Is that different? But then to allow for that Saturday usage. So it is an increase of 3 hours per week. Like I said, about 12 staff out. Actually, it'll probably be closer to about 14 by the time you count opening and closing. So probably about 14 hours a week. But it's 14 weeks. Due to the way that our budget is currently trending, we have that available in our budget right now, and we hope that this will be successful and be able to implement further. But we just want to again try to be a little cautious and in our operations, and so suggest a little trial period for this summer.
So this trial period, if it's a success, are you planning to just go ahead and move with these hours into the fall and winter?
That's what that would be our intent. Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
I think Saturday's a good idea.
Yeah, and you know we don't have any of our rec centers open on Sundays. Again, Sundays is pretty much reserved for churches and those kind of things, and so that may be something we need to take a look at some point as well. Broughton is open on Saturdays. So again, between our recreation, Green Street's not, again, that's a senior facility. So it's, you know, having it open on Saturdays is not an issue. But having recreational opportunities for our families, I guess, was our main priority. So having both of our main recreation centers open on Saturdays, I think is a good deal. And as we see how this goes, we may want to look at possibly a little Sunday afternoon too, or expanding our hours. So we'll just get feedback on it. We'll share with you guys the data that we get. As you can see, we have a lot of, we know who uses it, when they use it, and how they're using it. So it just makes sense for us to continue that.
Are there any other facilities that could be open for a recreation center, and especially on the west side? Because I got a lot of feedback on that.
Sure.
They're on the opposite side of town, you know, and a lot of people use these recreation centers that not even in Longview. A lot of these people are coming from White Oak and other places, but I was just curious if there's any facility right now without having to build it from scratch that could be converted into a recreation center.
Right, and there's been a lot of discussion on that as far as senior services, and the city just does not have anything in its inventory.
Yeah, I didn't think we did.
It's about the only thing that would be a quasi-governmental entity, if you will, is the old Pine Tree School there off the loop, which is Community Connections now is the way. So it's not really government, but it's nonprofit, and they have facility space that's available for rent and offices and those kind of things. But it really doesn't have any of your weight equipment, or it does have a gym, but that's really the only facility that we've been able to identify that we may be able to figure out some type of access. But, you know, as I've mentioned, probably since I've been here, that we have a lack of programmable indoor space in Longview that really prohibits us from expanding our offerings without getting into somebody else's operations or those kind of things.
Right.
And we're, again, as we mentioned, partnerships, we're great at doing those kind of things. We love to do that. But a lot of facilities, that's not their primary focus, and they need to ensure that, so.
And just to put it out there, the Valley Elementary School's been sitting there for years, and nothing's, I look at it, and I see the Community Connections building, and just think that would be a good, but that's nothing to do with the Park and Rec, so.
Right.
But it's just something I've noticed over the years. Does anybody else have anything about Paul Martin Jones?
Do you need a recommendation on that?
Yes, so we would welcome a approval of those new
the
hours.
change?
Make a motion to approve the hours for the Paul Martin Jones Center.
One second.
We have a vote on that, please? Yes, we all,
Agree.
All right.
all right, let's, any more park board member comments on any issues or something they want to talk about?
Well, I noticed that now that the newspaper owns more than just the Longview paper, we're seeing a little more news out of Tyler. And I couldn't help but notice the story the other day about they're really going ahead full force with a skateboard park.
I was
And,
just gonna ask
I
about
was
that.
wondering about our guy.
I'm always
our
doing
poor
it, so I
lone
thought I'd
ranger
let somebody else
and
Sure.
his efforts. So.
Yes,
He's still working on raising some money, and so that's kind of where we are right now.
is it all on him to raise the money?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's gonna be hard.
Yeah, I think he's got some others that he's helping,
Yeah.
that are helping him with that, but,
Is there an area that we can put for him?
well, and that's why, you look at the first phase one of what Tyler's doing is $200,000, and then
Yeah.
phase two, I think, was $500,000. So again, that's essentially a new facility,
Yeah,
so.
and all poured concrete too.
Right, and so ours, what we're looking at is renovating of a current park facility essentially. So that's why our costs are down, it's essentially just the installation of the ramps and those kind of things. It's about $80,000. So, as far as reserving space, I mean, that concrete is already there and poured, and so that's why we're able to have a significantly lower
So that's the spot
cost.
that y'all picked out for the skate area for him?
At Ingram Park.
Yeah, I think I remember now.
Yeah.
But
So
I'm
anything.
excited for the kids on
Yeah.
that because they don't go to the parks for anything hardly
Yeah.
at all. And I
Yeah.
think they would that.
So, I mean, to get a skate park, again, so if you just look at the Tyler model of what they're doing, you're looking at a, $750,000 skate park facility, if you want to go from scratch, to do it, with, poured in place concrete and all those kind of things, so,
That's what it is.
I would like to say that there may be some bond money available, but, that we're not gonna know that for 6-7 years down the road.
So I was wanting to ask and also add that my son, being 4 years old, knows the parks by the features.
Right.
He's like, I want to go to the Kids View. He calls the Hulk Smash Park because it's green, and the Rotary Park, the Spider-Man Park because it has the webs. So my suggestion for asking for input on these parks is if you could actually go to the schools that would be serviced by these parks and the age groups that are in there, that might be a really good way to get some input. Because as a parent, I can say what I want, but I know that my kids would probably give a lot better input, even if they couldn't verbalize,
Sure.
But I mean, showing pictures to them or saying like, what are your best memories of going to the park might give some really good and different feedback.
Absolutely. Yep.
Because our goal is for the kids to come.
Yeah, it can look really cool to me and you guys, but
Right.
Yeah.
I don't see many of us playing on a playground, so.
They got different ideals than we have, I agree.
A couple of the parents I've talked to, though, up at the place we were talking about with the canopy, the kids like the look of it too. I mean, they
Yeah.
like the stuff, but they like the look of it, so that's where they want to go.
Is that it? Everybody, those are great comments. I'll adjourn the meeting.